The Celtic Freeport plays a vital part in achieving net zero in Wales because the port infrastructure, alongside energy infrastructure, plays an integral part of how we enable net zero to happen in Wales, and particularly when it comes down to industrial decarbonisation, where the port infrastructure provides ways of decarbonising through the generation of hydrogen, the liquefaction of CO2, shipping that out to a store somewhere in the East Coast or in Scotland, but also it provides the opportunity to deploy technologies like floating offshore wind into the Celtic Sea, which enables an industry in the long term to have an abundant source of energy on their doorstep, which industry in Wales hasn't had since the closure of the coal mines in the mid-80s. So the Celtic Freeport is a key part of the South Wales Industrial Cluster Plan, with their two clean growth hubs, the one in Milford Haven and the one in Port Talbot. The Milford Haven and Port Talbot clean growth hubs contain businesses and hopefully will grow businesses that will become an integral part of providing materials and goods and services that support the deployment of the floating wind industry, and particularly maintaining all of that value that's been generated through the deployment of flow within the local economy. The Celtic Freeport can have a positive influence on the creation of skills because it will be one of those economic activity hubs where a lot of new jobs can be created and also new technologies can be deployed, which allows more people to actually participate in that. But what is key is that we do some upfront investment in skills once we can actually are ready for that investment to land and actually to build and maintain and operate those facilities needed in order to fully make that economic prosperity a reality. The Freeport allows, I think, the communities around the ports once again to thrive, and we only have to go back about how important ports have been historically in creating thriving communities. We're here today in Cardiff, where the port itself created loads of wealth for Cardiff and become one of the major powerhouses when it comes from coal export. And the Celtic Freeport provided opportunity once again for the ports to play an integral role in the economic recovery of Wales and in reindustrialization of Wales, which once again brings that wealth back into the communities. What we need to make sure of, we do it right for future generations, and that wealth which has been generated through the ports actually maintains in Wales rather gets exported in Wales. The way I see Net Zero Industry Wales work with Celtic Freeport in the future is that already our members are already key participants in the Freeport development. So we see how big of corporate members of ours already playing a big role in making the Freeport a reality. And that's not only on the port side, so the Milford Haven Port Authority, ABP, but as well as big companies like RWE, Dragon, Valero, but also Tata Steel, Lanzatec. They're already part of a membership. And what is really important if we want to make net zero a reality? We need to work in partnership with each other rather than in competition, and the Freeport allows us to work collaboratively in a framework which allows companies to work together and thrive together. My aspiration for the Freeport is that the Freeport itself becomes a vital component of making decarbonisation reality, allow industry once again to thrive, stops the industrial decline that we've seen over decades, and allow Wales to become that true country that creates sustainable goods and services going forward, and allows the communities surrounding that Freeport to thrive and benefit from the development there.